Hello again, friends, and welcome to Gamecock Central Radio. Emerson Phillips with Gamecock legend Kip Bouknight for a Gamecock baseball report. Gamecocks playing good ball right now, winners of 8 straight after a 3-0 Wednesday night win over Charleston Southern this week. And the Gamecocks are 15-5 on the year now and 3-0 in SEC play after sweeping Tennessee in Knoxville last weekend. Kip, it's been a week or more since we joined here on Gamecock Central Radio. Let's talk about the Tennessee series a little bit. Clark Schmidt did not start the Friday night game. Adam Hill got the start. A 7-1 South Carolina victory. And Kip, I was asking before the podcast today about Clark Schmidt's health, oblique injury for Schmidt. What's your experience with that, Kip?
Well, I've had an oblique strain, and it can be something that you got to be really careful with. So I'm certainly sure that Brainerd Cooper and the training staff is doing everything they can to monitor Clark Schmidt as much as possible. In my history, it's usually a 3-week process at the earliest. It's one of those where if you try to come back too early, you could really injure it again. And but again, Clark Schmidt is the only one that can feel that. He may have had a very minor strain to his oblique, but it remains to be seen. Hopefully, and I'm not quite sure. I know they talked about last weekend at Tennessee him potentially starting on Sunday. So I don't know if we didn't start him because we had already won the first 2 games, or if it was just definitely he wasn't ready. But you just have to put your trust in the training staff, and obviously Coach Holbrook, Coach Myers will monitor him, and I'm sure they'll do what's best for him, number one, and obviously thinking of the team down the road as well.
All right, Schmidt is penciled in to start this weekend, Sunday's game against Alabama. We'll have more on that in just a moment. The Gamecocks beat Tennessee 7-1. Tennessee was ranked 24th in the country going into the series last weekend, and Jacob Olson broke a 1-1 tie with a 3-run home run at the top of the 7th inning of Game 1. South Carolina would add 3 more runs in the 8th. Sophomore right-hander Adam Hill got the Friday start, picked up his first win of the year, 6 innings of work, 1 run, 6 hits, 5 Ks, and 3 walks for Hill, now 1-2 on the year. And senior right-hander Reed Scott worked 3 scoreless innings for his second save of the season. All 9 Gamecocks in the starting lineup finished with at least 1 hit last Friday. And then on Saturday, Jonah Bride walked on a 3-2 pitch with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the top of the 10th to play to run. The Gamecocks would add 1 more in the 10th, and Josh Reagan was your winning pitcher with 2.1 innings of scoreless relief, just 1 hit allowed. Reagan now 2-0 on the year. The Gamecocks were out hit 10-4 in this ball game, but won it 6-4 in 10 innings. Will Crow, the starter, worked 5 2/3. Gamecocks got home runs by T.J. Hopkins and Jonah Bride, so just 4 Gamecock hits on Saturday. But the 2 homers, 1 from Hopkins, 1 from Bride, and the Gamecocks with 2 runs in the 10th to beat Tennessee 6-4. And then on Sunday, Kip, the Gamecocks really broke out the bats. South Carolina got a 2-run home run from Madison Stokes in the 3rd inning, and then a 7-run Gamecock 5th inning that featured 8 Gamecock hits. 12 Gamecock batters went to the plate, and South Carolina would add a solo home run from Alex Destino in the 8th inning. And it was Colby Lee picking up his first career win with 4 scoreless innings of relief. A freshman right-hander Cody Morris got his first SEC start and the second start of his career. Cody worked 3 2/3, gave up 1 run on 3 hits, struck out 4, and walked 3. The Gamecocks picked up the sweep in Knoxville and are off to a fantastic start, 3-0 in SEC play. Kip, a strange weekend, solid batting, Friday and Sunday, but not much hitting to go around Saturday, but the Gamecocks still found a way to win. Kip, huge way to start the season with a road sweep to begin conference play.
Yeah, it is, and I think it came back to the timely hitting we've talked about before, Emerson. There were 6 home runs by 6 different players in the Tennessee series, so that was certainly huge. I think that's definitely going to be a recipe for success. It's solid pitching, solid defense, but I do believe our bats are going to have to carry us into the postseason for this team to make it anywhere in the postseason. We got to score 6 runs or more on any given night. Now, yes, of course, our pitching is capable of dominating at certain times, but I just don't think the pitching. Again, you're in the SEC. It's going to be tough to go out there and only give up 1 or 2 runs a night when you're facing the type of competition you do in the Southeastern Conference. So, great start for the Gamecocks. Certainly was overshadowed by the basketball teams, I should say, especially the men's. Obviously, the women's, I hate to say it, we kind of expect that now, but that's what Dawn Staley and their staff has certainly created. But congrats to those guys and girls. Obviously, making the Sweet 16 was amazing, and it's a great time to be a Gamecock. And big weekend series for South Carolina, Alabama. I hope we can have a couple thousand or more at the game tonight, but I got a feeling everybody I know is going to New York. If not, they're definitely watching it. But I'll be watching the basketball game, but I'll certainly have the baseball game on as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of crowd we get at Founders Park on Friday night with the Gamecock baseball team hosting Alabama for the first of a 3-game set this weekend in Columbia, while the Gamecock women's and men's basketball teams are both playing in the Sweet 16 on Friday. In fact, the Gamecock men will tip at 7:29 in New York City at Madison Square Garden against Baylor in the Sweet 16, and the Carolina-Bama baseball game starts at 7 in Columbia. So, yeah, folks that are at Founders Park will obviously have an eye on the basketball scoreboard, and it'll be interesting to see if the basketball Sweet 16 doubleheader affects turnout at Founders Park. Good weather today here in Columbia. Should be a great night for baseball. Kip, the sweep of Tennessee set the stage for the midweek game this week, a 3-0 South Carolina win over Charleston Southern, and it was sophomore right-hander Graham Lawson working 5 scoreless innings and combining with relievers John Park, Reed Scott, and Coley Bowers for the 5-hit shutout. South Carolina had a 3-run 5th inning that featured an RBI single by Alex Destino and a Jacob Olson bases-loaded walk. So, Kip, with the absence of Clark Schmidt last weekend, we're starting to see more of this depth of the Gamecock pitching staff, which we felt would be the strength of this team coming into the year. And Schmidt has been fantastic this year, and the Gamecocks, for at least one weekend, have found a way to win without him. So the scheduled starters for South Carolina against Alabama this weekend will be Adam Hill on Friday, Will Crow on Saturday at 4 o'clock, and then Schmidt is penciled in to start Sunday's game at 1:30. But that can certainly change, Kip. But Gamecock pitching depth, a real asset early in the season here.
Yeah, it is. And, I think one important thing, Emerson, is even though we certainly don't want Clark Schmidt out and we don't want Tyler Johnson out, it does give opportunities immediately to maybe some folks that would not have gotten opportunities before. And I've said this many times in the last several years. It's important for South Carolina to be really good down the stretch from a lack of arm fatigue standpoint. They need to be fresh. They need to be, not overused. And we want to try to get, if you can have 7, 8, 9 guys on a staff that pitch regularly, that only bodes well come postseason play, because you're going to have that time where if you get to a loser's bracket or you have to rain out and you have to play some games with limited rest, you get to Omaha and you might not have the normal rest you need. You might have to start a guy that is not one of your normal top 3 or 4 starters. And if those guys are pitching regularly throughout the season, that is only going to help them. And I think you've seen that we've got some freshman arms and we've got some other guys that definitely are capable enough to step up and pitch. But unfortunately, sometimes those guys don't get opportunities. And I know it's tough because college baseball, we always say, guys, kind of a long season, but it is a short season. You don't have an opportunity to go on a bad skid. You go on a 4, 5, 6 game losing streak, and it's really, you gotta play to win each and every game. So I think you have to find that balance of being able to get guys in, get them some regular work, but also you have to win. And it's a tough thing. I used to talk to Coach Tanner about that all the time, and it's a difficult scenario, but now they're forced to pitch those guys, and I think I think our guys are more than capable, especially in midweek games, to get some good work in. And if our bats can continue to do like they did in Tennessee, it certainly helps the cause.
So the Gamecocks, winners of 8 in a row after this victory over Charleston Southern on Wednesday night. Matt Williams has reached base safely in 18 consecutive games now, and South Carolina's team ERA is 2.75. That is second best in the Southeastern Conference. The Gamecocks allowed just 7 runs, 23 hits, and 28 innings against the Volunteers with 29 strikeouts, and that run total was the second lowest allowed by an SEC team over the weekend. So Carolina playing good ball right now, despite the fact that they're banged up. Kip mentioned that Tyler Johnson's been out for a while, and Clark Schmidt, sort of day-to-day, wait-and-see approach, I think, with him, although he is penciled in to start Sunday's game against Alabama this weekend. Bama's 11-10 overall coming in. They're 0-3 in conference play. My name's Emerson Phillips. Gamecock legend Kip Bouknight is with us for the weekly Gamecock Baseball Report here on Gamecock Central Radio. Kip won the Golden Gloves Award for college baseball back in the 2000 season, and he joins us each week here on Gamecock Central Radio to talk Gamecock baseball. South Carolina ranked number 4 in the nation right now by Perfect Game. The Gamecocks are ranked number 7 by Baseball America, number 8 by D1 Baseball, and in the USA Today coaches poll, and Carolina right now number 13 in the nation in the collegiate baseball rankings. But South Carolina up to number 2 in the RPI, which was released by the NCAA on Monday. We invite you to download the Gamecock Central Radio app. We got this free phone app that allows you to listen to our podcast for free on your cell phone, anywhere you receive cell phone service. The app is free. The podcasts are free. You download the app on the App Store and on Google Play, and then you can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, and other popular services, or just go to radio.GamecockCentral.com. So we're ready for South Carolina and Alabama. 7 o'clock first pitch Friday, 4 o'clock start Saturday, 1:30 start Sunday, all 3 games at Founders Park in Columbia. Let me give you the pitching starters again. For South Carolina, it's Adam Hill on Friday, sophomore right-hander, 1-2 with a 1.54 ERA against Jake Walters, junior right-hander from Alabama, 3-2 on the year with a 1.91 earned run average. Saturday starters, Will Crow for the Gamecocks. He's a junior righty, 3-0 this year with a 2.73 ERA. And it's Dylan Duarte for Alabama, sophomore lefty, 1-1 with a 2.78 ERA. And then on Sunday, Clark Schmidt scheduled to start, the junior right-hander, 3-0 this year with a 1.04 ERA. Did miss his last start due to that oblique strain. We're not sure about the severity of the injury, but he is penciled in to start for the Gamecocks on Sunday, and his counterpart for Alabama will be Nick Eichholz, sophomore right-hander, 1-0 with a 6.48 ERA. So, Kip, Bama was swept by Missouri to open SEC play, and for those who have not been keeping up with Missouri baseball this year, they're the hottest team in college baseball right now. They lost their first game of the season to Eastern Michigan, and Missouri has not lost since. They have won 20 straight ball games. They got the longest winning streak in the country. They were ranked number 18 in the nation in the polls last week, and they swept Bama last weekend. So Bama is 11-10 overall and 0-3 in conference play, and they've got to be feeling a sense of urgency this weekend, Kip.
They do, and the one thing, Emerson, about the Southeastern Conference play, and we've seen South Carolina at their best. This program, South Carolina baseball, has been built on just mindset, the will to win, playing hard all the time. And we've seen, the team over the last 5-6 years at times struggle with that. Any team's going to struggle with that sometimes. So having said that, I still believe when we won national championships in 2010, 2011, we may not have been the most talented team at all, even in the College World Series. I mean, there was probably several, in my opinion, that had more talent, but you can't measure a young man's heart. You can't measure their will to win. And I think that's something that, Coach Tanner built, Coach Holbrook's continued, and our guys need to play hungry every single time. Every single time out, those guys have to. I don't care if you're playing Charleston Southern on a Wednesday night. Our guys, yes, we're talented, but to get the most out of our players, to get the best out of our players, and for them to get the best out of themselves, they have to be hungry, and they have to play with a heightened awareness that is just second to none. And that ingredient there is very, very important, because anybody you're playing in the SEC, I don't care, they're on any given day, they could easily beat you. And we've seen even non-conference teams. Obviously, there's more parity in college baseball today than there ever has been, and it keeps getting better every year. And South Carolina's got to come to play, and I'm sure they'll be ready tonight at 7 o'clock at Founders Park.
Interesting series. Bama's 0-3 in the league. The Gamecocks are 3-0. We know Bama's going to feel a sense of urgency to try to get in the win column in conference play, and the Gamecocks with an opportunity playing at home to continue this hot start in conference play. So Kip and I will be back next week to recap the Alabama series. Kip, baseball has kind of taken a back seat to basketball this week, with both the Gamecock men's and women's teams reaching the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament. And, lost in the shuffle is the fact that this Carolina baseball team has won 8 straight ball games now, and they're starting to heat up at just the right time.
Yeah, they are. And, again, it has been overshadowed, and that's okay. It's still early in the baseball season. There's obviously a great following for South Carolina baseball, but I'd be remiss if I didn't, mention in my personal congratulations to Frank Martin and his players. I just cannot say enough about what he's done for our basketball program. He's made them relevant again, and bottom line for me, I think Mike Krzyzewski said it after the game the most. He didn't really necessarily say that you take on the personality and the attitude of your leader. But that's a perfect example of what's happened at South Carolina in our baseball program. Our leader is relentless. He works his tail off. He'll run through a wall for those kids. He has taught them discipline. He's hard on them, but they're battle tested. You've heard Ray Tanner talk about it. You've heard Chad Holbrook talk about it. Those guys were prepared for the moment, and they seized the moment, and I couldn't be happier for them. And for those fans that were wanting to fire Frank Martin 2 or 3 years ago, and probably even, earlier this year with 3 weeks to go in the season, they're, mad as they could be at how our basketball team's playing. It's a process, and you got to get the right recruits in. You got to get the right players in that can handle, his personality. And I personally would run through a wall for a guy like Frank Martin.
I think he's a great guy.
In high school. I do too. He's unbelievable. Yes, some of the language he may use that people hear may be tough to hear, but I've been around enough. I know that's the Cuban culture. That's a culture. That's the cultural thing, and he doesn't mean it in any negative way. Those kids would run through a wall for him, and I think you see it after the game against Duke. Silva's the first one that goes and bear hugs him, and Silva's probably been ringed the most out of them all.
Yep.
So I couldn't be happier for the players and Frank Martin. What a special, special year. No matter what happens tonight for me, I congratulate them, and it was an awesome season. But I do believe that they believe they can win it all. And, hey, why not? They're going to do their best tonight in Madison Square Garden, and what an amazing venue, and I'm so happy that they've done something South Carolina basketball has not done in a long, long time.
Yeah, a lot of Gamecock fans making the trip to New York City to watch Gamecock men play Baylor in the Sweet 16. The Gamecock women are playing in the Sweet 16 against Quinnipiac in California later this afternoon. And just a really exciting time to be a Gamecock. The baseball team's in the top 10 in the country, and what a run it's been for Gamecock basketball here in the month of March, and maybe it continues this weekend. We'll see, and we'll be back to talk about it here on Gamecock Central. Kip, enjoy the weekend. Big series for the baseball team as well. We'll be back to talk about it next week. Thanks very much.
Sounds great. Go Gamecock.
All right, that's my man Kip Bouknight, and I'm Emerson Phillips, and this is Gamecock Central Radio. Kip and I will be back next week. We'll recap Carolina and Bama baseball, and we'll look ahead at next week's action. South Carolina's got a midweek game, Tuesday night game next week at the Citadel, and then the Gamecocks head on the road to play Auburn for a 3-game set next weekend in Southeastern Conference play. For Kip Bouknight, I'm Emerson Phillips. Thanks for joining us on Gamecock Central Radio.